After receiving instructions on the ground and donning the necessary safety gear, Rob, a reporter for a local television station, made his way to the top of the rappel tower. He was following the 14-year-olds who were doing this for their morning activity. One by one, the youth descended the tower, and their smiles when their feet hit the sand below said it all, proud of themselves for what they had accomplished. Finally, it was Rob's turn. I was watching this unfold from the ground below, standing next to his videographer. Together, we watched Rob step closer to the edge, and suddenly he paused. In the headphones, we could hear things were not going so well. No, said Rob. I don't think I'm gonna go through with this. He was pushing the boundaries of his comfort zone. Without prompting, the youth who were next in line, waiting their turn, started to cheer him on. They knew from experience that it can be scary to go down the tower, and it took some of them a few tries before finding the same confidence on display that summer morning. Bolstered by their cheers, he took a few steps closer to the edge and followed the instructions of the staff. We watched as he backed up towards the edge, hanging his heels over and leaning back into the harness. Then after a pause, he started to take the first few timid steps down the wall. And with each step, he gained more confidence. Reaching the halfway mark, he even tried a few bounces and used that to record part of the segment for that evening news. After very happily returning the safety equipment, Rob and I spoke about what took place on the tower. These activities, I told him, fall into what we call challenge by choice. And as I reflect back on this and the principles, I'm reminded of how much this is integral in our faith. It begins with the learning facilitators or instructors who provide the safety guidelines, the equipment, and certainly the activity. The creation of a safe environment is always an important step, which will then allow the learners to participate as deeply as they feel is right for them. In our faith communities, we start by establishing covenants for our congregations, small groups, and even between ourselves. These covenants guide us towards our highest aspirations, towards the ever-evolving creation and maintenance of healthy communities, spaces in which each person is seen as both whole and in a stage of transformation. Now, the participants in these activities also have responsibilities for themselves and their learning. They are active participants, and each person is trusted to tune into their own self-knowledge to determine their comfort level and the depth of their participation. Each week, there are many opportunities to get involved in congregational life and in our communities. We, each, are responsible to determine if and how we participate without judgment. In our living tradition, we trust each other enough to explore the things that are life-giving to us. No one will tell you what to believe, whether from the pulpit or from the pews. This is not a place of spiritual uniformity, but instead a place of unity. Father Richard Rohr explains spiritual unity as diversity maintained by love, where we say to one another, I love you enough to let you do it differently than me. We know that the richness is in the conversation, where our differences help us thrive. Many people come through these doors wrestling with questions of faith. And here in this place, curiosity, doubt, skepticism are welcome, even encouraged. It is a place where we can bring our authentic me in a community of authentic we. We sign for ourselves an invisible permission slip to be unapologetically ourselves. And as a result, we become owners of our journey of faith, where we can truly meet ourselves, each other, and the divine. In these challenge by choice activities, there is no right or wrong level of participation, because that determination is made by the participant. The goal is not to complete the activity, but it is to step beyond our comfort zone, just enough to be challenged, but not so far that the experience becomes one of overwhelm. So the real question here to be answered is, are you growing? In this community, are you evolving? Are you finding for yourself the living presence of love within and among us? And there will be days when we come to this place seeking peace and comfort, while on other days there is bandwidth for something different. Are we taking what we learn within this space to the world beyond our doors, transforming our relationships and communities with the bold power of love? So even though you could do these challenge by choice activities alone, they are most often done in a group setting. And it still warms my heart to remember the way in which the youth began to cheer on this reporter, to offer him encouragement without prompting. This is the work we do for each other in community. We sit with one another in places of doubt, fear, grief, even daring to feel boundless joy as we intentionally search for truth and meaning. There can be a tendency to do this work alone, as if our individual journeys of faith were to be kept to ourselves. We can be hesitant to bring up in conversation our individual beliefs. I know that I have not reached out to others to ask what language they use to refer to the sacred. In the same way, I would not hesitate to ask someone their pronouns. I also don't offer up my own language, contributing to the unease we have in living into this diversity of beliefs. Our communities need us to be courageous enough to name what is life-giving, the ways in which the spirit of life draws us ever more into love. Recently, in reading Parker Palmer's book, A Hidden Wholeness, I was reminded of this very challenge to live a less divided life. I, like many others, have become well rehearsed at living a compartmentalized life where different parts of my living occur in silos. But I also know that my best learnings have come when I have allowed the walls to come down, often noting that the lessons have been repeated in different parts of my life, but I missed the messages life was trying to pass me across the classroom. Returning to our reporter, he did one last courageous thing, and it took place after he left the site, without our direct influence. Later that night, when I watched the resulting coverage, after it had been through the tough decisions made in the editing suite, the final decision was made to leave the moments of uncertainty and even fear in the segment. It was a sign of grace and courage to display on television the real human emotions which took place earlier that day. Although what would challenge one person is not the same across the board, we do need to see that we are all challenged and that we all need encouragement. Here, in this place, in the sanctuary, in small groups, in cafes, or in the garden, there is new learning to be done. There is also a community that is ready to encourage you to take that next small step, to celebrate with you your accomplishments as you have defined them, and who can help you discern next steps forward. We are called to model for each other both the courage to take the next step, as well as the courage to rest, pause, integrate, while the world around us wants us to be perfect and at lightning speed. Can we too have the courage to show each other our imperfections? For it is only when we own our imperfections and failures can we open our hearts to the grace of healing. Therefore, today and every day, the choice is ours. Will we accept the challenge? Will we together embrace the change our world so desperately needs? Blessed be and amen.